Joining us today is one of our original ride or die agents, a guy who can sell a house, fix it, and have you laughing the whole way through. Outside of real estate, he's a longtime general contractor, proud husband, a brand new dad, and hands down one of the funniest humans I know. If you're working with him, you're getting a true pro and a wannabe stand-up comedian all in one package. Let's welcome my friend, the legend himself, Anthony Phillips. All right, welcome to Know Your People. This is our series where you meet the people that are important to our team and our team's success. Today, we're sitting down with Anthony Phillips to hear his story, how he got started in real estate, some of his best tips for buyers, some of his best tips for sellers. Let's jump in. Anth, thanks for
having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah. Let's just start at the beginning, man. You've been with our team since the tail end of 2014. Why don't you let everyone know how you got started in real estate?
How I got started in real estate as an agent, or is it just as a guy that loves real estate? How far back do you want to go?
Both. Let's go with both.
When I was younger, I bought a bunch of $5 raffle tickets to a pump, pass, and kick, and I sold the car that they gave me and bought my first duplex. And then I think I was like 21. I owned a Corolla with 300,000 miles on it, a screw gun, and a tool belt. And the first thing that happened was someone stole all my tools out of the shed in the back, and I feel like I learned a lifetime's worth of lessons on that one house, making a bunch of mistakes. But that's how when you're going out on your own and trying something, that's really what happens is you make mistakes. And I remember running into you 10 years ago. You told me you were starting a team and you thought it's possible that I might be good at selling houses. And I found out that it's just better for my lower back to sell the house than to work on the house. So now I consider myself more of a guest celebrity contractor if I'm ever picking up a tool belt. But I'd rather just take that knowledge from all those years in that industry and help people, buying and selling, and I'm hoping to never be in a crawl space again, and all that stuff that I had to do when I first got started. So running into you was a nice thing because you're keeping me healthy. As a seller of houses, I just really like real estate. I've always been fascinated with the fact that you could buy a house, improve it, sell it for more money. And I just find it just to be a great investment if you're looking to make money, but it's also everyone's looking to put their family in a house where the emotions are high and there's more at stake than just maybe an investment. So that part is fun, like getting a family into a house and getting the most money for a family when they're selling houses is turning out to be pretty rewarding.
It's a fun thing for sure. You touched on the contracting background. So those of us who know and love you already know how that is. We want to keep you out of the crawl spaces, but can you share a little bit about sort of how that helped you, especially in the beginning, you as a newer agent walking in with a little bit maybe of like product knowledge of some properties, more so than most people that just have a real estate license?
The first thing it helped me do was feel confident as an agent that I could really help my clients. Even if I hadn't sold a house yet and I'm doing my first sale, I feel like I could be really informative. And I think, there are certain clients that really appreciate the background, and sometimes I feel like we're just hanging out at the house and talking and we're just friends because they're like, what does that mean? Why is that like that? And why would this be like this? And getting explanations. I think the clients feel really comfortable when they're looking at houses and when they decide they're going to pull the trigger on a house, especially when they think something that, an example would be a client who loves a house and thinks to themselves, I would love this house, but I need to cut a doorway into this block wall because the setup is weird. And I think that's a $20,000 thing. And then I can, at least set them on the right path. And a lot of clients end up finding out that the things they think are really expensive aren't as expensive as they thought, and they can proceed, with a purchase with confidence that they're not going to buy a money pit, like that movie.
Yeah, and I think you do a good job for anyone who's meeting you for the first time over this of keeping them separate. Yep, you can come back and help them out with some contracting stuff afterwards. You and I have done flips before. You've done hundreds of finished basements. You've done a lot of projects over the years. You've been contracting for many years and a lot of overlap. But you're not jamming that down their throats. You're not selling that. You're there to represent them in a real estate transaction. And then, oh, by the way, this is just
Right.
all this knowledge is kind of sitting in my back pocket
Yeah,
for you to
but
take
right now
advantage
I
of.
want to just leave it as back pocket knowledge that'll help them, and they can proceed any way they want once they buy the house. As long as I can get them to be as informed as possible, that's the goal.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yep.
Educate them, right? Let them know that it's not 20,000. It might be 5,000 for the door and
Yeah.
the block
Well,
wall
that
together.
door in the black wall is a
Yeah,
funny story because this house had a great sunroom in the back, but the only way to get to it was to walk in a bathroom and then walk through the bathroom. There was another door to get through it, and my clients were just so aghast that it was set up like that.
yeah. It makes
Yeah,
for a fun
it's
party.
very fun. Like you can use the bathroom, but you got to leave the door unlocked in case people need to get through into the sunroom. So, they were considering purchasing the house based on the estimate, and with the background that I have, I'm able to call a mason up and get a quick quote without
Yeah,
sending him to the house, wasting his time, send him a picture, actually send him a video. So
yeah,
that really helps people, in my opinion, when you can get a quote for something from a real guy that's really going to do it at that price, not just like an estimate. A lot of inspectors will give you like an estimate, but they're not going to show up and do the work. So you need someone who's licensed to do the work to tell you, yeah, I can do that for 5 grand. So you can budget that. Yeah, it's very helpful.
yeah. When you think back to when you started, you had the overlap where you're first starting and you're probably doing more contracting and less real estate, and then somewhere along the line that's a break even, and now you've been a full time agent for many years. Do you remember your first transaction? You remember some details of it? Obviously, not disclosing any names or anything like that, but anything that, as you think back to that first transaction, that clicked for you right away, that made you say, "Hey, I like this and I can do it," or anything that was like, "Ooh, I need to learn maybe a little bit more than maybe I was
The
prepared for."
first time I felt like I was going to be good at this was when I was still studying. Well, now hold on. This is right after I got my license, and I hadn't had a client yet. And I had a friend who was looking at houses while I was studying to get my license, and
Mhm.
they were unable to. They thought they couldn't buy the house because of a construction issue. And I told them, let me in the house. Let me take a look at it, and we'll come up with a solution. So I was able to actually solve their issue uh, without, I wasn't involved. I was just a friend, and they ended up buying the house. They ended up selling the house a couple year or maybe a year ago, making a lot of money. And they bought the house at the right time, and they thought the house had serious construction issues, and it didn't. And my, my going in there gave them the confidence to buy the house. So I thought this is great, especially if I were to actually, make money instead of just offering the free advice. So you know, that was the next step, was to offer the
Yeah,
advice while getting paid. So, you know,
yeah, yeah. It's like meet the parents when he's when he's a male nurse and he says, "Oh yeah, I wish I had time to volunteer." He's like, "Oh, I also get paid." Nice.
that is a great line. I do. One of the
Yeah.
things I remember is I did my first purchase with two different people at the same time. So I was a rookie agent doing my
Mm,
first purchase twice somehow, and the amount I had inspections 2 days in a row, and the amount of confidence I had at the second inspection was so much more than the day before, because I can say to them, my last inspection, this and that happened. Meanwhile,
yeah,
my last inspection was my first inspection, and it was yesterday. And yeah,
yeah,
so two clients got the opportunity to do my first purchase with me at the same time. So it was kind of a wild ride to start, but it's fun. I like that.
yeah. It's almost like learning on
Yeah,
steroids.
learning. There's a lot of learning on the fly, and the thing I realized is that just problem solving skills in general, they translate from industry to industry. If you're good at problem solving in one industry, you'll probably be good at it in another industry. So solving problems as a contractor, they're not necessarily the same problems. You know, a guy calls out, now you got wood getting dropped off and you have no one to pick it up, that type of thing, as opposed to in real estate, the problems are always different. You can't really prepare for them. And that's part of the fun of reacting, you know, appropriately to each hurdle and finding a way to get your clients through everything quickly and smoothly and without any issues.
Yeah, the stakes are high for the clients because it's for regular residential real estate. It's their shelter and it's also a ton of money. So it's, you know, you have
I
stress
tell
from
them
every
it's
end.
okay to take it seriously. You know, it's okay. A lot of them, some of my favorite clients are always, they'll look at a house and they won't like it, and they'll tell me, I'm really sorry I brought you out here, and I'll tell them, don't be sorry. You're spending $800,000 on a house. It's okay for this to be all about you.
Always a good message. So you touched on a little bit about learning on the fly, learning as you go. Can you think of some things over you're entering into like the start of your 12th year? Can you think of some things that have evolved for you over the years? How you approach the business, how you handle things for clients, suggestions that you make, things like that.
Over the 12 years, I guess I'm getting better with my reads and anticipating things, knowing, you know, I'm doing a deal now with where the seller doesn't have an agent. So I know that I have to be, you know, more in contact with him than in a normal deal to make sure he understands what's happening on our end and to make sure he's not violating the contract on his end and he's getting all his stuff done. So yeah, there's a lot of evolution that goes on, and the instincts and the reads just kind of get better, and you can start. I think being efficient with my time is something that I've gotten better at. Another great example: a buyer wants to see a property. 10 years ago, I'm making an appointment and going there, and I'm excited to see it and show it and talk about it. Now I call the agent and do a bunch of due diligence first, because some buyers don't want to see a property based on the seller's disclosure. Some buyers don't want to see a property because it's got 8 offers and this is the first property they're looking at, and they don't want to be a part of that kind of a frenzy to start. So no one wants to waste their time. So part of my job is to protect the buyer from wasting their time, and then at the end of the day, wasting my time. But you know, they don't know that they're wasting it just because they like a house.
Right. No, it's a good point. We're bouncing around a couple different things. Is there something that, like, as you've gone through the business and had experience, you know, you've had investors, you've had flips, you've had wholesales, you've had sellers, you've had buyers, you know, landlords and tenants. Is there like something that you love most about helping clients, or maybe also that clients, you know, over the years that you've found sort of a common theme of things that clients like about you as an agent that you bring?
I think I love calling a buyer in this market where it's incredibly hard to get a house, and the only real win is getting the house. I love calling a buyer and hearing the reaction that they got the house, because some of them really go through a lot to get something, and that's very satisfying, I would say.
Yeah. I agree. The emotional arbitrage that it's probably the wrong word. I'm trying to sound important, but I'm not. The emotional baggage that a lot of these guys go through when you're submitting and you're giving your best, but here comes somebody else that just has a little bit deeper pockets and they blow you out of the water. It's tough to go through that, especially, I mean, anyone, but especially like young families are kind of getting crushed.
Yeah, because you're bringing your kids to the showing. Sometimes the kids are calling out which bedroom they like, and then you got to go tell the 8-year-old that you were, you know, 7th highest out of 14 offers, and they don't.
No 7th place.
I've never met a child under 12 that didn't want to buy the house they were in with the family. They all, you know, they're all so excited. So,
yeah, it's a good thing they're not in charge of the budget, I guess. Yeah. Do you have, I mean, I know maybe you talked about this with buyers. Do you have like a favorite type of business or buyer or seller that you like to work in? Do you like a messy house, a messy transaction, not transaction, a messy, in terms of complicating and getting the property ready because of the contracting background, or is there something that sticks out to you? Like, man, I really, you're going to help everyone, obviously, but I'm really good or unique at this type of business.
Anytime the house isn't perfect and glimmering and like a shiny diamond, and anytime there's an issue or something to overcome, I'm happy to be part of that type of situation, because I feel like I can prep my clients more than the average person to take on a problem or something that looks like a problem but not as big as a problem as everyone else thinks. And you can slip your way into a nice deal if there's something construction wise or price wise. I love looking at overpriced houses. It's a fatal mistake by the seller to overprice the house. And I let my buyers know, let's look at a couple of overpriced houses, because when you put that offer in that feels like maybe it's a low ball offer, but it's actually really a realistic offer, that seller is going to feel that pressure because they only have one offer. They've been on the market 2 months. They're overpriced. Yeah. I like a scenario like that where I like getting wins for my buyers in a market where they don't get a lot of wins. I like a nice challenge.
Yeah, I think that's a free tip for people too. If you have a property that's been sitting out there for a month, the market is in the suburbs of Philly still really hot, and South Jersey still really hot. In the city, things are starting to level out a little bit, but good properties and good locations kind of always sell. But those houses that are sitting 3-4 weeks, 5 weeks, 6 weeks, and they haven't changed the price yet, they're great to look at, because emotionally, if you put in an offer as a buyer that's a little bit below, you're letting the seller off the hook a little bit. With they don't have to go out to the market at a lower price, and sometimes they'll save a little face, right? Because they're excited. They list their house, they tell friends, family, neighbors, and the house on the market. And if you're in a position as a seller where you have to cut and cut and cut, doesn't feel great. People are asking you what's going on. A lot of times they'll blame the agent. And if a buyer comes in, sometimes it's kind of like a sneaky way to get a win. And the sellers may be emotionally maybe more open to considering that stuff.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, we started talking a little bit about buyers, dude. Let's talk about buyers. If you were talking to a buyer today, what's maybe 3 tips or more, or something that you would give to a buyer who's getting ready to start their journey?
I would say be patient. I know your emotions are involved because you're moving your family into a house. You're trying. A lot of buyers aren't sure how much they like the house, and they feel pressure because of the market to maybe buy this one house that they can afford, that no one else seems to want, that doesn't check a lot of enough of the boxes that they really want. It's okay to be patient. Some buyers I've shown one house to, and some buyers I've shown houses to for up to like 5 years. And you'll know when you walk into the house that's going to be yours. You'll know. One buyer that bought a house, I remember showing her on Father's Day, actually. She ended up buying this house. She had seen 12 houses before, and she never threatened to make an offer. And she was walking through this first house, and and she looks at me. She goes, we're walking through the first floor. She's like, I'm going to make an offer on this. This house is great. And I looked at her and I just said, do you want to maybe go upstairs while we're here? And we'll check out the second floor too. And she's like, yeah, I'm going to check out the second floor. But like, she knew right away. And you just have to go through the numbers sometimes. It's okay to be patient. It's okay not to get a house. It's okay not to offer on a house that doesn't truly fit what you want. And that's my first tip. If you might look for a house for a year. You might look at 25 houses. That's worth it if you find the house that's the right fit for you. So another tip for a buyer is to remember not to overthink it too much. The win in this market is to get the house. Getting the house for your family, the one that you want, that's the deal. That's the win. You can lose sleep over the fact that you paid $15,000 over ask, and maybe you only had to pay 10, and you'll never know. You can't focus on stuff like that. The win is getting the house, and try not to listen to mom and dad's story when they purchased their house in 1984, because that was another planet and you're not going to get everything that they got. And, you know, they now are sitting on a $500,000 of equity, and, you know, it's not necessarily going to work out exactly like that for you in this market. Just getting the house is really the win. So my third tip for a buyer would be feel free to interview agents. A lot of people don't really have a process of hiring an agent. They just know a guy that got his license, and some buyers don't seem to understand that two different agents could get you two different results. It's okay. A lot of people know half a dozen agents, and it's okay to call up each one and be like, "Hey, I know 5 agents. I'm having you all over my house, or we're all going to do a Zoom independently, and I'm going to pick one." And that's treating it, you know, like a serious thing. You're spending a lot of money on a house. A lot of people, this is the biggest, you know, financial purchase they make, and it's okay to tell an agent, maybe you're not as professional as what I would like for what we're doing here, and, you know, go through a couple interviews and treat it right, treat it like it's a serious thing, because it is. A lot of people, I've had some sellers. I've actually had a seller try to drop their agent and work with me while we were negotiating inspections, because the agent went to Vegas and stopped returning calls. And one of the things one of the things she said to me that always stuck with me was, she was like, "I hired this guy because I grew up with him. I went to high school with him, and he is not returning calls and not doing anything. And this is such a serious uh, thing for me, and he doesn't seem to be taking it seriously." And that woman's words always stuck with me about how disappointed she was with her agent. And I remember thinking, I hope no one says that about me, that I don't care, or that I wasn't around, or that I'm not putting my effort into it.
Those little conversations over the years like stand out for sure. And I think there's a lot of agents, easy to get your license. Not every agent's the same. It's same as, you know, you're going to, you know, put a new kitchen in your house. You're probably not calling one guy unless you know, like, and trust them. So probably interviewing out for the job. So I think that's a great one. For you know, just for a couple things for buyers out there, if they're in a multiple bid situation, anything, especially these past couple years, any tip or trick that you like, that you give something free out to the people here to maybe let them know a thing or two that could help them win?
Multiple bids. Well, as an agent, one of my objectives is to figure out what the hell's really going on. You know, when the agent has 3 or 4 offers, gauging where those are at is sometimes tough. So if you keep in mind that the win is getting the house, and you might have to sacrifice some stuff, you know, take the emotions out of it. With the help of an agent and the communication with the listing agent, you might at some point get the answers to the test. So you kind of have to prod, you know, poke around a little for that. And the more communication, the better in any type of situation like that.
Yeah. I think that's a great point. It's really important, I think, for buyers, especially, I would say, younger buyers, generation and a half behind us, like, where the thing that's great is they're not afraid to, like, go online and figure out anything. Like, dad needs open heart surgery. Great. Let me just get on chat. I'll go through that. I'll get a couple prompts. I'll lay him on the dining room table, cut him open, slice him and dice him, and he'll be fine. But, you know, maybe the experience of the surgeon helps. And slightly more important job
if
than what
I
we
did
have.
an open heart surgery, I would definitely consult the surgeon first.
That's good. That's a good idea. Yeah, good idea. All right, we talked a lot about buyers. Let's talk about sellers. How about things that you like to tell sellers? What's a couple tips that you like to give sellers when they're getting started and getting ready to list their home?
I'm going to cheat the system a little bit and use one of the same answers as the buyers, and tell you that they should feel free to interview agents. The story I told you about the Vegas guy, he listed the house, went off to Vegas, stopped answering. Yeah,
I was a
that was a
seller.
seller. And, the funny thing is we had a deal done. We were a couple of $1,000s away from a deal, and then he came back from Vegas just to blow it all up. So if he had just stayed out by the pool for another day, we would have been fine. But feel
Yeah.
free to, if you're going to list a house for $400,000 and it's a big deal to win or lose $5,000 or $10,000 or any amount of money, it's okay to take it seriously and interview some agents and ask them, what are you going to do that's different than another agent? And there are agents out there
Yeah.
that are awesome at marketing. You see them on Instagram and you start to learn their faces, and they're putting stuff out there and they're going to get you more looks. And some agents are spending money on advertising, right? So there are different ways to do it and help your client. And then there's agents that are just going to put on the MLS and hope the phone rings, and they're not going to have much of a scientific process for what listing price. And they might not know all the things that the other agents are doing. There's a small percentage of agents that are doing all the things. So I would interview agents and find out who's doing what and what they can offer you, because a lot of people that are selling and buying have an attitude that whatever agent they hire is going to get them the same result. So we're almost like we're gifting you this opportunity to make money when we could have picked all the 3 other agents that we know, when they don't realize maybe one agent's going to get them more money or get them into a house faster than another agent. That's a big thing to consider. So another tip when it comes to listing your house and picking your price, we kind of already touched on this. Figure out what the house is worth with the comparative sales. Some people get, an actual appraisal done first, right? Put the house up for sale at what it's worth, or maybe a little bit less, because if you're one of those guys with your house on the market for 90 days in a market that's a frenzy like we've never seen before, then your house is overpriced. And then we already talked about what's going to happen. You're going to get a buyer who's going to come in, lowball. It's going to feel like a lowball offer, but it's really a realistic offer. Then your agent's going to be like, well, I hate for you to miss out on this only offer. And now you're going to feel the pressure, and you're not going to be able to dictate any terms. And now all of a sudden you have a buyer dictating terms in a seller's market because you overpriced the house. I have a young couple that are under agreement for $455 at a house listed at $485, something like that. And because they were the only ones that wrote up an offer and sent it over, they got inspections, they have an appraisal, a mortgage contingency. They have all the things that some people are waiving to get a house. And they went through inspections, just shot out a list of like 12 things to do, which is a lot in this atmosphere. Yeah. And they got everything they wanted, and they're going to sit there and tell their friends how easy it was. And some of their friends are going to be like, I've been looking for 3 years, and I had to sacrifice like my firstborn just to get into a house here. And it's going to be a different story for them than for everyone else. And I'm happy for them that they did that they followed instructions, and they did exactly what I guided them to do. And they got everything they wanted, and they have a beautiful house for probably what it's worth and not paying more than what it's worth. So another tip for hiring a listing agent is, maybe it's not the greatest idea to just search for the person who's going to charge you the least amount, because you're kind of actively searching for the worst negotiator that you can find. Then you're hiring them and you're sending them out in the world thinking they're going to fight for you when you just watch them not fight for themselves. So I always found it funny that some people will list their house with whoever is willing to do it the cheapest. And that's not necessarily the one that's going to get them the most money. So that's another thing to look out. Look out for that cheap agent.
Yeah. Well, there's Nordstrom's and there's Walmart. Both are great for different things. And which one are you looking for as a seller when you're going to sell your house? Yeah. Let's turn to like agents. What would you say newer agent. You've been in the business for over a decade at this point. You've had successes. You've had some things that didn't go your way. What's a piece of advice you wish you would have given yourself that you had when you were younger? You would give to a new agent joining our team?
I'll give you advice, but I don't necessarily think that it wasn't given to me when I started. But
okay,
do something every day. It's your profession, and we are what we repeatedly do. Therefore, success is not an action, but a habit. That's Aristotle.
Let's get deep, bro.
That's free advice from Aristotle. So, and it's true. Anyone who's successful at something is doing it every day. If you're looking at a major league baseball player, that guy swung a baseball bat 500 times a day, every day of his life, and that's why he's the best at it. So, sometimes you have to get creative when it comes to starting out in real estate, because sometimes you can sit down, open your computer, you got your coffee, you're looking around, and you're like, this is great. I'm an agent. No one knows or cares. So how do I get to work? That part is a little bit of an uphill battle. But if you don't work in your business every day, even just a little bit, eventually there won't be a business. And it'll be gone. Yeah. So every day, it's a habit.
That's great. Yeah, it's an easy business. A lot of people get into our, you and I talk about this a lot, but a lot of people get into our industry for the idea of flexibility. My saying that I say all the time is the flexibility. It's a prison of freedom, right? You're free to do whatever you want. You're not working at the shipyard and you have to be there from 9 to 5. You're not, on a roof. You're not, digging a grave where you have to get it done. But when the phone rings, you have to be available for your client. You can't never be available. Right? You have to have extra availability, but within that comes some flexibility in your schedule. And what you do with that separates the good agents from the bad. If you want to watch Netflix all day, you can do it, and you can have your real estate license. Probably not going to make a lot
and
of
you
money.
Don't realize how much the Netflix hurt you until 60 days later.
Yeah. You're always working.
When
you're always working.
Why can't I afford Netflix anymore? What's going on?
I think that's great. Yeah, you touched on a few different things, talking about buyers, talking about sellers, and a little bit for agents. Can you think back? We're you and I are really good friends, and known each other forever. Can you think back of like a really big win that you have had over the years in real estate that made you really proud? It doesn't have to necessarily be the highest price sale you ever did, but something that's a huge win that you have for a client.
There's a lot of wins out there that I like. One of the things I love that we did this together really was on the purchase was actually kind of large, 1.3 million, but the seller was up at 175 and we were down at 125, and it ended up at 1.3. And one of the things we did was we just kept making the same offer in writing like 3 weeks in a row until the seller finally called us up and like, oh, let's meet somewhere and talk it out. So I like the creativity of that, but I also like the leverage of walking away and slow roasting a seller to get them to come down to where you're at. My buyer at the time was like, I don't want to offer this much because I don't have another move after that. And I told him, you have the greatest move of all. You can just walk away and say, no, thanks. And then the seller had something in writing, and now he has nothing in writing. So getting a seller to come down at a price point like that after, being on the market for a year or so and just being really stubborn, it's hard to work at that price point because it's hard. It's not easy to figure out what the house is worth because they're all so different at that price point. And that's a nice win. I really like the creativity of doing something that other agents aren't doing.
Yeah. I remember that one intimately, and it was good. We had a challenging seller, and respectfully, we had a challenging co-op.
Oh yeah, and I think we had what did we have a problem with? Oh, the seller took an ice bucket out of the house, and there were.
Oh yeah, almost lost a deal there. Maybe that's something to share. A lot of people don't know when you're a real estate agent. Sometimes you've done all the work, and this deal in particular had all the personal property included, and the seller removed an ice bucket, and we were at the OK Corral at the settlement table with everyone with their pistols out, who was buying who an ice bucket.
Yeah, and my buyers were like really generous, nice people, and they were just offended at the move. Like, what is this? Like a $15 ice bucket, and why did you nab it from this house? Like they were really offended by the move, and they I don't think they cared that much about the ice bucket itself. They just couldn't believe that the seller did that. But yes, we've had discussions over some of the weirdest things, and the ice bucket is up there. Doing a $1.3 million cash deal, and we're at the table negotiating an ice bucket situation, and I couldn't believe it.
Yeah, what a neat industry sometimes to work. Yeah, work in. And that's all like principal, ego. That's nobody cares about the money at that point. It's not the money. It's the
Yeah, and then I think you remember this, but the line, no charge for a great client. If you remember that, we had a deal where my seller agreed to do 3 things for a buyer, and they were really simple. And because I was a licensed contractor, I asked the other side, "Do you mind if I just do these things?" And I went over her house and did the 3 tasks in less than 10 minutes. So I didn't want to charge her anything. I'm already making money selling the house. It was 10 minutes. She was a great client. She was really nice. And on the invoice, I wrote at the bottom, I wrote everything I did. On the bottom, I wrote no charge for a great client. And the buyers hired a lawyer. They brought a lawyer to the settlement, and they read that part. They read no charge for a great client, and the buyer looks up and she goes, I just don't really care much for this. And I was just like, I don't know what is happening right now. I just didn't want to charge the lady. One of the things was a GFI. I just hit the reset button, and now it works. I'm not charging her for it, and I don't understand why you're so upset. And they also were trying to grab a light fixture that they claimed was in the pictures, but then taken out before the showing started, and they claimed that it was there when they saw the place, which wasn't true. So people get crazy, and that becomes very memorable. That becomes memorable.
Yeah.
No charge.
That's cool. How about any like crazy challenges? I mean, maybe we already talked about them, right? With dealing with lawyers fighting over an invoice, and
anytime you're dealing with people, it could be a crazy challenge. Like you never know what they're going to throw at you. But I do remember one deal where the buyer was paying cash. My client was selling, and he was out of town. It was a rental. It was his first house. He had moved into a bigger house, and this was a rental that he was ready to sell. It was vacant, and it was a 14-day close from, it was cash, but we had to get a UNO, and that included a sprinkler cert. I couldn't get a sprinkler company out there until day 7. They said they wanted to move a sprinkler head because of a wall that was built in the basement too close to the sprinkler head. They wanted to charge money. I was like, okay, we got them to get the work done, get the UNO done, we needed new smoke alarms because they were painted, all within it was like 3 or 4 business days. And those are the types of hurdles that I like. I remember picking up the use and occupancy permit on the way to settlement. It was ready the morning of settlement.
Yeah.
So I needed every second of those 14 days. And I felt like I pulled off a miracle because I only had 7 days to work with, because I couldn't even get a sprinkler company out for 7 days. And then they told me they weren't giving me the cert that they wanted to move ahead. So I remember that. I remember because I remember the other agent wasn't cool. She was freaking out the whole way. 14 days of high stress that she was creating. And I just remember telling her, try to be cool. We're doing this, and we got it done. So that was a tough one. Some agents will make it harder for you, for sure.
Yeah, I think that's good advice to the agents. Yeah. Try to be cool, right? We are negotiating opposite sides, whether we're representing the seller, they're representing the buyer, or vice versa. But we can negotiate hard for our clients and in our clients' best interest. But adding fuel to the fire sometimes is like play number one for a lot of agents, and it makes things difficult. And a lot of times our clients don't realize what's going on.
Yeah, I would say keeping your emotions in check is one of the most important things as an agent, because the buyers and sellers that are spending all this money, they, they somewhat have a right to be emotional about it. And some of them are, and they can't help themselves. That's fine. Like you're selling the house where you raised your kids. It's not, it's not always the happiest thing in the world. Sometimes it's sad. My parents sold their house last year. They had it for 50 years, and we took one last family picture outside, and it was like bittersweet, So
yeah, absolutely.
I would say if you're the agent, keep your emotions in check, because someone has to.
Yeah. Yeah. Someone has to. It's right. Listen, and we talk about this a lot amongst the team. The clients are, it's their money, it's their house, so they should feel the emotions. They should feel the, damn, I needed that 10 more grand, or I wish I got it for 10 grand less, or hey, this was mom's house, and we're coming in, and maybe there's something tough in their life going on. They should, and they are allowed to have all the feelings in the world. Our job sometimes is to kind of just like, let's hear all that, and then let's handle the business part of getting you sold here and getting you out of here with keeping respect with whatever you're going through emotionally in your life. It's a lot.
If you're looking to be the star of the show, don't go get your real estate, because you got to take a back seat to the more important thing, which is that you have a client spending hundreds of thousands of dollars in making up an investment that's going to stay with them for the next 20, 30 years. And you can't be the center of attention for any reason.
Yeah. No, I think it's good advice. All right, a few more things, and then we'll wrap up. I know we're running a little bit here. So, obviously you're part of the team. You're a big part of the team. You were the first of the agents are remaining. You were the first agent on the team when we started the team. What would you tell people? And I'm not looking for you to blow any smoke. What would you tell people? What's good about being on a team? What's been helpful for you over the course of your career about being part of a team, especially as our team has grown in size?
The first thing I noticed when I got started was I was trying to change fields, and it was nice to be on a team financially, right? So it eases the financial burden of what it costs to be a real estate agent, right? But for me, there's two things I really love. One is being able to call someone that has a vested interest in what I'm doing, and actually cares a lot about how I'm, and has something, on the line, right? So that, like, when I call you up, it behooves you to help me, right? So we're making money together, and having someone that is tied in and cares and knows that they're involved is a nice it's a nice thing to have, right? So also the camaraderie of having a team. A lot of times when you're an agent, you're just like out on an island, and it can be lonely, where you're just like, you can't, even if you just want to tell stories about crazy clients or crazy inspectors, you need to, a lot of people stop on their white collar jobs. They stand at the water cooler, and they chat people up, and they talk about things they love or hate about the company. And sometimes it's nice to have someone who's going through the same things you're going through. And I like the camaraderie of that. I like associating with 12 or 13 people, that we're all doing the same thing. We're all doing it the same way, basically following the same type of guidelines. It's better than just doing it by yourself and then having no one to bounce ideas off of. And the team aspect is nice. I like it.
Yeah. Good. All right. Why don't we tell the people a little bit about, personal life stuff that you've going on? You had a couple huge milestones here in the past couple of years. Like, what do you, a little bit about your family, and a little bit about like what you love doing outside of real estate and outside of crawl spaces, which we're trying to keep you outside of.
I guess the biggest thing that's happened is I have my first child, and he's now about to be 9 months old. He's crawling around, so I have to be like on point now with this kid. He yesterday hit his head 3 times, so that's a daily high so far. But now that he's crawling around, like I'm on the floor with him and we're playing. It's playtime now. So you get hurt and you're going to have to bounce back. So that would be the biggest development, right? I'm like having my first kid in my 40s is ironic, of course, because I remember telling my high school girlfriend I don't want to be 60 when my kids are going to college. Now I'm going to be in a wheelchair at their high school graduation, and that's fine. I saved up all the wisdom and energy of 4 decades, and I'm about to distribute it. It's going to be an overload for this kid. So I've been married 2 years, and life is different. Life is different than when it was just me, and I purchased a house right before COVID, so I got lucky there and moved the wife in. Then we had the baby. Now we're like co-workers on the weekend. We're just outside doing landscaping, and my wife has my son strapped to her while she's weeding the garden, and just like it's a whole different life in the last couple of years. But I was always into sports. Played a lot of sports when I was a kid. The real estate got started with the sports. Somehow with the pump passing kick was always a fun story that I know you love hearing. Yeah. I'm just trying to hang in there and just try to stay healthy. Trying to focus on being physically healthy. I'm trying to stretch more. I got tightness everywhere.
There you go.
So I want to feel. I'm 44, but I want to give off that youthful 38 energy.
Looking for youthful 38.
Good. I would say it's better in all the different ways that you don't realize. Like you don't realize until you have that. You watch that baby pop out. Like you don't get hit with. You can't feel the emotions or relate to them until it happens. So.
Yeah. Life changing for sure. Life changing for sure. I mean, that literally changed my business as a solo agent. When the kids came, I was like, oh, okay. Got some responsibilities here that are a little bit different.
Yeah.
Especially when they started moving around. All right, cool, man. Well, look, I am obviously eternally grateful for our friendship. You're one of my best friends. You've been loyal from the beginning since we started the team. So I appreciate you to no end, and thanks for being a big part of the team and jumping on here. Anything that you would like to say, closing words, anything that you'd like to say to the people?
If you want to, if you're serious about buying and selling, the Bob Kelley team has everything you need. So just follow the breadcrumbs, and you'll
follow the breadcrumbs.
Yeah, and I of course appreciate everything you've done for me, Bob. But pulling me out of the contracting and saving my lower back.
Get you out of the crawl space.
Now, so I'll always be grateful that we ran into each other. And this is fun. Real estate, it can also be fun if you're doing enough of it and you have the right people around you. It's a fun business because it's different every day.
Yeah, it really is. It's a different way to make a living. It's not everyone's built out for it, but it is. I still find it. I learn something new. Every day.
It's weird how you can just keep getting lessons every day.
All right. Well, we'll wrap it up. So thanks for checking out our very first app here of Know Your People. If you want to connect with Anthony Phillips, he's a great agent. So we'll have all of his contact information, social media, online, phone number, email in the description of the show notes below. But Anth, thanks again for jumping on. And if anybody is looking to buy, sell, questions about contracting, maybe, I think it's a solid maybe that'll answer those. Reach out to Anth. He's a great agent, great guy, and he'll get you set. We'll see you next time. Thanks for checking out Know Your People. If you enjoyed this episode, do us a favor. Follow or subscribe on your favorite platform. Leave a quick rating and tell a friend to check us out. You can find us on social media at Bob Kelley Team across all platforms. And if you want to connect with our team or today's guest, the info is in the description below. Go show some love.